Well, hello, friends. I'm your host, Michael D. Butler. Welcome back to the Author Spotlight, where we highlight some amazing authors around the globe. And I'm really excited about our next guest today, Katie Wagner. She's an international speaker and a #1 international best-selling author, featured in How Big Can You Dream and Raising the Bar, Volume 3. Now, her trilogy, The Next Day Came, reveals her journey through depression, addiction, a planned suicide, and her survival after the unimaginable violent loss of her 2 sons in 2 separate homicides 2 years apart. Ironically, Katie previously served as a law enforcement officer. She's a Gold Star mother because her oldest son died while serving on active duty in the U.S. Navy during Operation Iraqi Freedom. She serves as the vice president of her local chapter, and her volunteerism supports veterans, their families, and the community. She speaks on their behalf, promotes awareness, and raises contributions for this great organization. Wagner's traveled the world helping hundreds of people on the topic of loss, survival, and thriving. She speaks on the loss of a child, gun violence, grief, addiction, learning disabilities, and how to move forward with strength and courage. With profound empathy, Katie Wagner inspires people to find the purpose in their pain and to convert that purpose into a new passion for life. Katie Wagner earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in criminal justice from California State University with highest honors, and I love this part, to fulfill the promise and in honor of her 2 sons. She has appeared on NBC News and on stages with the Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley, Governor Rick Scott, rock legend Alice Cooper, country singer Rocky Lynn, Bob Circosta of the Home Shopping Network, Nancy Matthews of the Women's Prosperity Network, Dr. Liddy Lewis, Esquire, Orlia Moore, Gary Cox, Matt Bacak, J.T. Fox, Amanda Rose, Shannon Gronich of the Business Accelerator Network. She's been busy. And Katie took the leap of faith and jumped at 14,000 feet with the U.S. Army elite parachute team, the Golden Knights, and Bent Still with Bert Olivia. In her journey, she has discovered ways to not only survive, but thrive under extreme circumstances. Now, let me tell you about her mission. Her mission is to honor her sons in everything she does and to be the person they believe her to be. Her purpose is inspired you today and others to find their strength, to transition into new, powerful, and fulfilled life. Katie currently resides in Florida with her spouse, Kim, and their standard poodle. Katie, it's so great to have you on the show today. And how are you doing? Congratulations on the trilogy coming out.
Well, thank you. It's been a big day, that's for sure. The first book is coming out today. I know Jeffrey up in heaven is very proud.
Now, this has been, yes, I know he is. I know he is. And this has been a long journey for you. Tell us about, why did you write the trilogy? You've got 3 books here, and we're launching book #1 today, Jeffrey.
Well, it started out as 1 book, and it just kept growing. Super Bowl Sunday 2 years ago, we had a house full of people. There was a party going on, and all of a sudden, I just opened up my computer. I typed the words chapter 1 and started writing. And here we are 2.5 years later, and it turned into 200,000 words of the story. And a lot of times, I believe my 2 sons were helping me write, because there was a lot of things through all this trauma and tragedy that I just didn't remember. So a lot of times I think they wrote right through my fingertips.
Well, it's just beautiful. You tell in the book how you got the news. You were actually driving a big rig through the desert of California, and when Kim called to deliver the news, she wanted you to pull over, and you couldn't pull over. And what was the biggest challenge through this whole process?
Well, I still remember that night. I had just come out of Nevada into California, and I had leveled off in the desert. It was dark, and I just wanted to get to where I had to go so I could get some sleep and deliver the next morning. And my phone rang, and it was really rare because she never called me anyway, you know, because knowing I was driving till I got to where I was going. And kept saying, pull over. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to pull over. How bad could it be? Just tell me whatever it was. Well, I had no idea what it was. I had my big truck set on cruise, and I mean, I don't even know how far I went before she spoke again, and I realized I was still driving a truck and had no idea. I was lost in, somebody had murdered my child. I mean, my baby. He was my baby.
Every parent's worst nightmare as a parent, you know, that's the news that nobody wants to get. And you know, it was dark, it was at night, and just you ended up at your destination somehow. How did you create, because you've got 3 books here, like you said, 200,000 words, 252 pages. It's just beautifully written. And we'll get a little more into Jeffrey. I felt like I knew this kid reading the book because, you know, I raised 4 sons, and I'm like, I can see some boy traits here. But how did you create the titles?
Well, the titles kind of came along. When you read the story, you'll see Jeffrey was killed in a robbery, and they charged the guy with murder. But it was his 5th crime with a gun, first time he killed someone, supposedly. But the 2 witnesses were just as bad as him. So they were afraid. The district attorney, he said, I'm afraid we're going to have another OJ, is what he called it. And he'll walk out the door free. And he says, I'm going to offer him a plea bargain. And having worked in law enforcement for some years, I just knew that, you know, every day people get away with murder, and yet other people will go to jail for life, go to prison for life for something less. And when they offered him the plea bargain, he took it. And I promised Jeffrey that day at the sentencing hearing, I would go to every parole hearing they had for him. And Kim and I did. We would fly across this country just to be there for 20 minutes of a parole hearing to make sure he served as much time as possible. But Jeffrey really did not get justice for what happened to him. I mean, he was a wonderful kid, an old soul. He would have given this guy everything he had. There was no reason for this guy to kill him, to rob him. So that's why I say it's just the injustice of murder, because he never got justice for what happened. There really is no such thing as justice or closure in my mind. So
the next day came is a big part of how you've lived your life. And tell us a little bit about what is the takeaway you would like people to have from this series.
Well, that's the thing. The next day does come every day. You know, it just kept coming. People say, well, how on earth did you get through losing 2 sons? Well, I not only lost my 2 sons, but we lost 10 people total in 9 years. It just wouldn't stop. We both lost both our parents. We lost our grandparents. We lost best friends, and it just wouldn't stop. And I just told people, I said, you know, the next day came, and then the next day came, and then the next day came. And I would just get up every day and try to make my 2 sons proud and be the person they believed me to do. And I had this promise to fulfill with them. I always told them, I was a single mom from when they were 3 and 8 months old. And I always told them how important an education was. With an education, you could do anything. They could never take it away from you. So I guess along the way, I promised them when they grew up, I would go to college so I could get an easier job, because I was driving this big truck to pay, you know, to raise these 2 kids by myself. Yeah. And so when Jeffrey was killed, then my other son, Bud, he said, well, why don't you go to college? We grew up. So he called me on it.
You went to college together?
For a little bit, yeah. And then he got called up for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then, well, there you go. The next story's coming up. You can read that one when this one comes up.
What is the, you know, what you learned from writing the books that really helped you move forward in this whole process, Katie?
One of the biggest things I learned is that my kids didn't want me to be sad and depressed and crying all the time. They really wanted me to go forward and to honor them and to fulfill my mission. This mission became writing these books and sharing this story, because there's so many people who get lost in their loss. They're just stuck. They can't move forward. They're angry, they're depressed, they're sad, they're suicidal. I mean, I've been everywhere that these people have been. And I compare it right now to what's going on in the world with COVID. All these people are losing their loved ones, and they can't be there to say goodbye. Well, I didn't get to say goodbye to my kids. I got 2 phone calls. And So these books are just really going to help people all over the world, because everyone has a loss. It doesn't matter what your loss is. To you, whatever that loss is, it's the most devastating thing you've gone through in your life. And I thought, I never thought I'd go through this twice. And it just, to me, it became very clear that my purpose was to share these stories and help other people to realize that they're going to make it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not an easy road, but the best thing to do is talk about it and share your story, because it helps other people.
And you've been sharing your story. You're speaking, and you're a guest on stages and on podcasts and interviews like this. And we'll get a little bit more into that in a minute on how people can get a hold of you and book you for their show. Tell me a little bit about, I know the birds are very significant to you. and when you buy Jeffrey today on Amazon, when you get the book, you're going to see that there's beautiful photos all the way through here. You kind of chronicle Jeffrey's life and your life together with he and Bud. But tell me what the birds are all about on the cover.
Well, since the very day that Jeffrey was killed, the birds have come to me. I'll get out of my car, for example, and there'll be a bird there just squawking at me and talking to me and going on. And I'll just talk to them and say, hey, how you doing? I miss you. I love you. And then they'll fly away. And this has happened for the whole time. And then when Bud died, then there was 2 birds. When my mother died, there was 3 birds. It was like, and now I can't tell you how many birds I have in my front yard here in Florida. Sometimes my neighbors are like, there's 20 turkeys in your front yard. I'm like, well, I don't know who's all here today. So I just feed them anyway. So.
Oh, that's really encouraging. That's really, and that's what you needed in those moments, right? Was the encouragement and
yeah, it gives you comfort, because if you just let yourself relax and realize there's all kinds of signs that they're still here. They still love you. They send you messages. Today, we've had little fiascos today, and I just think of my kids. They're just sitting up there laughing of everything that's happened today. They're like, yeah, we came in kicking and screaming. This book's coming in kicking and screaming. Don't worry about it, Mom. You're fine.
That is really awesome. I really love that. Well, how cathartic, first of all, how difficult was it to write this first book, and even before we get into book 2 and 3, but how difficult was it to write the first one? Was it cathartic for you? What did it do for you?
People always ask me that. They say, boy, this must be really cathartic for you, and healing for you. And actually for me, it was very painful, because I had put a lot of stuff away on little shelves in my head, and I hadn't thought about it for a while. Mm-hmm. And to write these stories, I had to really dig stuff out. I had to pull it out and look at it and feel it and go through it again to write it down. So these books are just raw emotion. They're very truthful, honest. I just tell it like it is, and what I felt, what I thought, what I went through. And that's why I think it'll help so many people, because it's just so real. It's true.
Well, I know you're a Gold Star mother, and we'll get a little bit into that in a moment. But as far as how long did it take you to write this first book? Was it pretty time consuming for you?
Well, I've actually done this full time for the last 2 years. I've written these books, but you got to remember it's turned into 3 books. So I could be working on Jeffrey's book and it go to the editor, and then I'm working on Bud's book. And in the meantime, I'll find something, well, this doesn't belong in Bud's book. It belongs in my book. So I have to move it over to my book. So I've had 3 books running constantly at different stages. It's not probably the way you should write a book, but I never do anything right the first time. So, I always do the hard way. So it's like my dad said when my son was killed and then the second one was killed. He says, well, you never did learn things the first time. You had to get hit over the head twice. So you'll find a lot of comments from my dad. He was a Marine and a sergeant in the Marines, and I have a lot of Marine Corps sayings in my life. So, yeah.
Wow. It's just an amazing story of tragedy to triumph, and how you've been able to embody this next day came philosophy. So basically full time, you're writing the books like 40 hours a week. Are you at the computer like 80 hours a week, or is it just depend on, do you go, I can't write more than 20 minutes at a time. I got to get up and go jogging or something. Are you one of these people that can literally sit there for 5 hours?
Oh, I can sit here all day. I literally, sometimes, well, here towards the end, I've been working 7 days a week. The only thing I take time off for is to go golfing, because golf became therapy for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was able to smack the crap out of that little white ball and take out some frustration and anger, but yet you're out in Mother Nature with all the animals and the birds. And so that's really about the only thing I take time off is for golf. So if somebody will talk me into going to play golf, I'll take off. Other than that, I probably work on my books from 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, I think you got to be really proud of this book. This is a very well written, well done book. You really chronicled Jeffrey's life, and then your moments before, during, and after are just amazingly very well written. Do you feel like then, for somebody that's had tragedy and loss in their life, either they've lost a child or a loved one like this, and for you, has it really helped kind of heal your soul and to move forward now that you've got 3 books written?
Oh, absolutely. These books have helped me to chronicle my life, and it's made a legacy for my 2 sons. When something happens to me, they'll always be here, and they will always be remembered because their stories are here. And they were both totally different people. Jeffrey had a genius IQ with acute dyslexia, so I went through all the struggles of learning disabilities, the public school system. Bud had a genius IQ. He decided to go in the military. He excelled at that. So, I mean, their legacy will always be here even after something happens to me. And the stories will touch people from so many different places. I can't even begin to tell you all the facets of the story in them.
You know, I know you've gotten feedback from all over the globe as you've been speaking, because you were a co-author in 2 other books prior to these books. So what would your boys want you to do now that you've launched book 1 and book 2 and 3 are coming out soon?
Well, literally, they sit out in that tree and look in my window and tell me to get the darn things done. Mom, they're perfect. You don't have to have them perfect. They're great. They really want me to just go talk about it and share the story. They want me to, anybody, I tell somebody every day their story. I mean, literally, it's so important for people to understand that they don't have to be in pain and hurting all the time. And, you know, in America, we're taught not to talk about death.
Yeah.
And not to, you know, people are afraid to say something, so they say nothing. I'd rather you say the stupid thing than to say nothing. But, you know.
Yeah, right now, tell us, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when I went through my divorce, people don't really know what to say, right? But what would you say to somebody else that's lost a child? Since you've lost 2 children, what should somebody do? They feel awkward. They don't know if they should call, if they should be quiet, say a word, bring a casserole. What do you do?
Anything, any of those things, and ask them about their child. Say, or if you know a funny story, tell a funny story. I love funny stories about my kids. When you read the book, you'll hear lots of funny stories in there about my kids. I mean, look at the tattoo story in Jeffrey. Wait till they read that one.
that was the one that caught me, because my number 2 son came home with a similar tattoo, except this one was on his neck. And so anyway, that was an interesting week at the Butler.
Anybody who has raised a child is going to see some story that relates to their child in these books, because pretty much Jeffrey, he was just an old soul, but he was the nicest person. He was never, you know, I raised these 2 boys by myself, and they were 6'3". I never had a problem with them. They were always polite to me. And actually, after Jeffrey died, Bud said, you know, we were always just a little bit scared of you, Mom. I said, good.
You had it exactly where it needed to be. Good. Yeah.
You know, I call this in the books the 3 Musketeers, because we really grew up together. I got divorced at 23 with a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. We literally grew up together. Oh, wow. We were best friends, but they had the utmost respect for me. And I always told them how smart they were, how good looking they were. They could do anything, you know, with an education. It was just different than, well, you'll read in my book, it was not how I was raised. So,
well, it's an amazing story of moving forward, moving on with your life. And I know you're speaking everywhere, and not everybody has a Marine Corps dad in their life like you did, like you did. So I know you're encouraging people, talking to people all the time, even those that I know that have known you, because we have so many mutual friends. What's next for you, KD? What is on the agenda for you and on the horizon?
Well, I'm gonna spend most of my time speaking on these stories and getting them finished and getting them out there, and trying to help whenever I can. I think I might have another story in me unrelated. I think it'll be a little bit fiction, but I kind of like this writing stuff. It's pretty fun.
Well, I think you've got a real knack for it. It's really interesting, and it seems to really grow on you. And you do definitely have a gift for it. I want to applaud you for that. Well, tell me about this. You jumped out of a plane, a perfectly good plane, at 14,000 feet. What would prompt you to do that?
Well, it was through the Gold Star Mothers. It was called The Leap of Faith, and it was when I started writing these books, and I just felt like I'd come upon my purpose, and I needed to make that jump of, that leap of faith. And when I had the opportunity, I figured if you're going to jump, you should jump with people who do it professionally. That's what these people do every day in the military, is they jump. And when I did, they put Bud and Jeff's names on my hands. I had them on my hands like this. And when I jumped, I said, this is going to be as close as I've been to them in a long time up in heaven. And I told the lady I tandem jump with that the birds come. And when we were up there floating down, the hawk came and the birds came. And when her feet hit the ground, she was so excited. She goes, oh my God, you're right. The birds were there. Did you see that hawk? And she was all excited. It was really cool. I was just the closest I've been to them for a long time. And they would have done it. Well, I know Jeffrey would have. Bud probably would have been like you because he fixed airplanes. He would have said, why did you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? He got either way with that one.
That is just awesome. Hey, give us a little peek into book 2 and 3 if you can. I know we're just launching Jeffrey today. And by the way, if you just joined us on social media, you can leave a comment, ask Katie a question, but also go to Amazon right now because you can actually grab the ebook at a promotional price that's good for only 24 hours. So the price is going up after today, but give us a peek on what's in book 2 and 3.
Well, book 2 is about Bud. He was in the Navy. He loved the Navy. He was going to college full time. He was a Harley Davidson rider. He loved his Harley. He just was full of a spirit and energy. Funny story on him. He worked out at a base in California where they filmed the NCIS show.
Oh, cool.
One day he came home and he goes, I don't know. There's this little gray-haired guy. He keeps telling me we got to be quiet because they're filming a show. He wants us to be in the show. And he says, I just told him, look, dude, we got airplanes to fix here. And I go, Bud, do you know who that little gray-haired guy is? He goes, no. And I said, that's Mark Harmon, the one you used to watch in that stupid summer school movie all the time. Well, that's him. He's short and he's old. I said, no, Bud, you're tall and you're young. He was so angry because he had airplanes to fix. And they were interfering with his work. He was raised by me, who was raised by a Marine, so he had the same fixations of do your work and get it done, and then you could goof around, And so it was funny, so I write that story in the book too.
That is awesome. It's really a front row seat to your children's lives, and the way that you honor them is just so remarkable. And it's an amazing book. Jeffrey is the first book. Now tell me about Gold Star Moms. You're able to give back, you're able to speak, you're able to run this local chapter. Tell us a little bit about that. And then I want to know how people can get a hold of you for speaking, for coaching, and for interviews as well. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, unbelievably, a lot of people don't even know what a Gold Star mother is, but you have to have lost a child on active duty in the military. Now, Bud was serving during Operation Iraqi Freedom, but he was actually killed in a homicide. But I'm still a Gold Star mother. The Gold Star Mothers are just a nonprofit group, and it's not a group you want to belong to, trust me.
Yeah.
It's a group of women who have all lost a child. In my case, I lost 2. But we do a lot of volunteer work. We raise funds for the veterans. If somebody loses their child, we're there for that mother. We're there for the community. We support them. It's just a good thing to do and give back, a way of helping others once again. I've really enjoyed being a member of it and sharing with the people. This week we actually made rocks with writing on it. You'll be remembered. We painted them and put the markings on it. And the Boy Scouts are going to take them to Bushnell Cemetery here in Florida on Labor Day and put them on the gravestone so that the soldiers will know that they're not forgotten.
Oh, that's awesome.
Things like that. It's really interesting. If I had one, I'd show it to you, but they're out in the garage.
Well, our guest today is Katie Wagner, and her story will motivate and inspire you. It'll touch your heart. First, it will break your heart, and then it will heal your heart, because as she writes, that tragedy often strikes us without warning, like a lightning strike in a storm. And for Katie, our guest today, a lightning bolt of devastation struck her as she drove a tractor trailer through a California mountain pass. Somebody had murdered her 18-year-old son, Jeffrey. Suddenly, her world reduced to the smoke and ashes of every parent's worst nightmare. Her life now is speaking all over the globe through virtual events like this and on real stages as she inspires others. And Kathy, I just want to say your book is very encouraging, because the next day came, and you're speaking and giving hope, and you're sharing the joy of motherhood as an amazing mom of two here, and you share the story. The first book in the series is Jeffrey. It's the injustice of murder. Jeffrey, a mother encounters the injustice of murder. And I love what you say here, and then I'll give you the last word. Time does not heal all wounds. It's how you use time. And what kind of closing thoughts would you like to leave with the audience today, KD?
Well, I really want people to know that there's hope, because for the longest time I was hopeless. I just didn't understand why I was still here, what my purpose was. I didn't have any other children. I wasn't going to get grandchildren. And it was just very disheartening. I had no idea why I was still here. So finding a purpose is the most important thing. And to just listen to your heart and understand that your kids want you to be happy. They want you to enjoy life. They want you to move forward and do the things that they can no longer do. And I always tell people, every day I get up and I do things and I say things to make my boys proud and to be the person they believe me to be.
Well, we're going to dive in deeper on our next interview. This was just so inspiring and encouraging and enlightening. We've got your Instagram up right here. I know you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, and of course you're on all the social media platforms.
The best way to get me, though, is to text my name, KD Wagner, to 64600. Because I
love that digital business card. So it's your name, KD Wagner.
Yeah, all one word, KD Wagner, to 64600.
64600.
I mean, it's just like a mini website. It's got everything on there, how to contact me. It's got loads of pictures. Like you were saying in the books, I put pictures. I just think that makes the story so much more personal when you're reading something and then there's the picture of Jeffrey scuba diving, you know. It just makes it so more real, you know.
Let's be sure I got that spelled right there. Text KD Wagner.
Yeah.
64600. Yeah, check that out. It's been a few weeks since I looked at that. You've got everything there where they can just call you, text you directly from that app, right?
Yep. I've got media information there. I've got book information there. It's an awesome tool.
Well, Adam is your PR guy today too. He's sharing that and backing you up. So that's great stuff there. Guys, go ahead and grab the book today, because the book, let me just put that up again there. Thank you so much. Grab the book on Amazon. It's an introductory price today. Now, the hardback is just beautifully done. It's 252 pages. And if you're like me, I like the ebook and the hardback and the audiobook. That way, no matter if I'm out and about or even if I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to go scroll through a few pages. Don't tell anybody why I'm waiting on a red light. But go ahead and grab that today at the introductory price. And we're so glad that you're here. And, you know, Katie, thanks so much for taking time. This was really a powerful and moving interview. And I just applaud you. You've done an amazing job. And my goodness, I can't wait till book number 2 and book number 3. So thanks for being with us on the Author Spotlight today. And I know people are going to be reaching out.
I appreciate it. It's a great story. People are going to love it.
Any final closing words?
No, I just want them to read it. I don't want them to think it's sad and gloomy and doomy. It's a good story. Most people think it's fiction because it's so unreal.
It is. And we're going to dive deeper into that next time. I've got some questions for you. Thanks, KD. Congrats on the book and have a great day. Friends, thanks for joining us on the Author Spotlight, where we spotlight amazing authors from around the globe. Have a great day.